Hey, honey, how was your trip to Menards?
Awesome! The Menards bag sale is back.
What's the bag sale?
You grab a bag in store and save 15% on everything you can fit in the bag. I got a new cordless drill, LED bulbs to help with the electric bill, stocked up on toothpaste, always need batteries, and paint for the mudroom, plus all my favorite snacks. Where are you going?
Menards, we're out of cleaning supplies.
Hurry in! Grab a bag in store now through January 14th. Get 15% off everything you can fit in the bag. See store for complete details.
The friendship is sharing deal.
Because I want one of your McNuggets.
And I need some of your Quarter Pounder.
There's a deal for everyone at McDonald's. Get one favorite like 10-piece chicken McNuggets, a Quarter Pounder, or a Big Mac and get another for just $1. Price and participation may vary. Valid for item of equal or lesser value.
To get the Crime Writers on After Show right now, go to patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On, the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. And this week, we'll take a look at a cocaine smuggling ring being run out of Vice Media. It's Cool Mules. Then, who's killing former workers at a boys' home in Iceland? We're going to talk about Netflix's The Valhalla murders. Joining me to get that done and a whole lot more is my real-life husband and true crime co-author, former TV journalist, and social distancing exception, and my favorite home journalism buddy, Kevin Flynn. Hello, Kevin.
What do you mean by that?
You're my secret weapon, Kevin Flynn. Also with us is journalist, true crime author, former defense investigator, licensed private investigator, and certified cat lady, Laura Bricker. Hello, Laura.
Hello, I am now certified cat yoga lady.
Nice. It doesn't make it any less weird, Laura. And finally, our captain of woke cynicism, the author behind the noir novels known as the City Trilogy, and our Patreon book club host, but perhaps more important, the host of the hit podcast, Strange Arrivals. Congratulations, Toby Ball.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Now, Toby, it's only Wednesday as we tape this. Your podcast came out yesterday, and it is like topping the Apple podcast charts. How does it feel to be more famous and more successful than the rest of us?
Oh my God, that's quite a question. It feels great, Rebecca. I feel so powerful.
It's about time, Rebecca.
Yeah. I've been waiting for you to say that for 5 years.
It's a long game, Rebecca, and I'm finally winning.
No, it's been awesome. And thank you to everybody out there who's listened.
I refuse to listen.
Yeah, good. Just on principle.
Do you want to hear about Toby's root talk with the aliens? And then the UFO came from Vega.
I drove south from Littleton through the notch, past exit 32.
I've been through that notch, and it's a scary place.
We've all been through that notch, Laura. Fucking New Hampshire, Laura.
Well, Toby, I am so proud of you. And I don't mean to say that like in a patronizing way, like, look at you, you did something amazing. But seriously, look at you, you did something amazing. I am so proud of you.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been awesome so far. It's just episode 1. Got 11 more to go.
Yes, but Toby, it's totally going to get optioned to be a Netflix series. You 100% know that, right? At least that's my prediction.
Okay. All right, I'm going to hold you to that.
All right.
Rebecca's working on it.
Yeah, just, when you listen to it, just spare a moment for the producer who had to walk me through voiceover.
Oh, fuck, we know that.
For hours and hours and hours. The 3 producers I've really worked with a lot are Alex Williams, who's kind of in charge, and then Josh Thane, who does a lot of the sound stuff, and then the person who also does sound stuff but kind of walked me through the VO aspects is Miranda Hawkins, and she deserves some kind of hazard pay.
Miranda.
It's a lot of hours.
Listen, Miranda, I've been editing Toby Ball for 5 years. I fucking get it, Miranda Ball. I get it, Miranda. You're my girl.
If anybody does, it's you.
Yeah.
All right.
Can we play 2 games?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, your quarantine name.
That's a game?
It's a game, okay?
This isn't funny, Kevin.
No, here's what it is, okay?
It's dead serious.
It's the last thing that you ate.
Yes.
Plus your high school mascot.
Oh, God.
Think about it for a second.
Nice.
Mine is so good.
Laura Bricker, start with you. Go.
The red wine, red devil.
Oh my God.
Very
good. Oh, my God. You're not going to believe this.
No. What?
You're not going to believe
Is that
it.
yours, too?
Mine is Gin and tonic Red Devil. I swear to God, my high school mascot was also the Red Devils. I swear to God.
Wait.
Wow.
Did I say the last thing you drank?
Oh, wait, okay.
Yeah.
Ready?
It's
It's getting even better.
It's supposed
Ready?
to be the last
ready?
thing
You ready?
It's supposed to be the last thing you ate.
It's better. You ready?
Yeah.
Canned corn Red Devil.
Oh, wow.
What did I eat?
I guess I got that wrong.
Sauteed kale Red Devil.
Kale Red Devil.
You
All
did
right.
say 8, but Laura interpreted it as 10.
Oh, yeah,
and
of
I
course
just wanted
she
to
did.
pile it. I can't believe we went to the high schools with the same fucking mascot. I was
I
just thinking
know.
today, because I was, can I just interrupt you for a second? I'm sorry.
Sure.
So I saw like a throwback to my high school's mascot on Facebook, and Red Devil is very often a very racist high school mascot name for like Native Americans.
Oh, right.
Mine
okay.
wasn't that. My high school's name was the Red Devils, and the picture was literally a devil, like with the
so
was
pitchfork
mine.
and
Yeah,
shit.
no, a lot of them actually
yeah,
are.
so was
Yeah,
mine.
so anyway,
and it was super
we
scary.
were not a
Devil.
racist Red Devil. We were just a blasphemic
America is
Red
so
Devil.
happy that somebody as woke as Rebecca wasn't tarnished by the mascot her hometown picked
Anyway.
100 years before
Wait,
she was
what was
born.
your high school mascot?
Well, should I give my whole
Oh, it was
quarantine
the
name?
Irish.
Yeah,
it was the Irish
what's your
ghost,
name,
right?
Kevin?
It was Chicken Gale. We were the Gales, like in Ireland. Yeah.
Yes.
How about Toby Ball? What was yours?
Well, it's fortunate. I haven't had a hamburger since before Christmas, and I had one tonight for the first time. So it's the Hamburger Hornet.
Hamburger Hornet.
Oh my God, Toby wins.
That's very good.
All right. Tell us your quarantine name. Put it on Twitter and Facebook.
Well, Kevin, can we just get a tiny bit of business done before we start the show?
Sure.
Right now on our Patreon is the Crime Writers on After Show. And I got to tell you, I have a lot to say about the aftershocks from our Tiger King episode. And we're going to talk about that in our Patreon after show tonight. The wrong that I think Carol Baskin was done by that documentary. I'm just getting angrier and angrier about it and getting a lot of feedback. So we're going to talk about that in our Patreon after show tonight. But I also want to, Kevin, put in a plug for Married with Podcast right now. There's a new episode out, and we're going to be making more of them because we're both here, by the way. Married with Podcast is getting real. It's getting real. Like our real like beefs and tensions and stress and fears and anxiety is coming out in that podcast. And people,
Do we have a fight I didn't know
no.
about?
But I just was very vulnerable about my level
You
of
were.
anxiety. People seem
Yes.
to like it when I am real. If you want to hear that shit,
People love your pain.
that's right. Go to patreon.com/partners in crime media.
And you can drink Rebecca's tears.
and
They're salty.
God.
finally, after a technical delay, the Toby Balls book club episode of Adnan story, which is about, I don't know, a guy named Adnan Syed, which you may have heard of because of the podcast called Serial and the best-selling book by our friend Rabia Chaudhry,
Heard all that.
will finally be being released. We actually promoted it a couple weeks ago on the show and had to cut out the promotion because as a result of a technical difficulty, none of the files for that podcast were usable. And poor Henry Lavoie, 18-year-old Henry Lavoie, had to contact hit podcast superstar Toby Ball and say, hey, man, I think you need to re-record your book club. But that is finally
I have
out.
to have a conversation with your mother.
Anyway, so go to patreon.com/partners in crime media to get that done. And Kevin, we have a brand new feature we're unveiling this week. Do we not?
We do.
Our patron of the week. Kevin Flynn. Who is our patron of the week this week?
Anthony Cantor.
Oh, congratulations, Anthony.
Thank you for supporting us on Patreon.
Yes.
You win nothing. We're still working this. We're still working this bit out, but we want to thank you for your patronage.
We just want to acknowledge people who are supporting us and maybe like call them out as our patrons of the week. That was a nice new feature, wasn't it not, Kevin?
Yeah.
I have
is.
an announcement.
What's that?
Announcement, speaking of supporters. Well, for a long time, this podcast studio that you are in your, not in my house, but in your house, the basement.
Yoga loft above the bodega in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi studio, which is actually a closet on our Hampshire basement. Yes.
Yes, I actually went to a yoga class this week at the yoga loft above the bodega in Bay St. Louis.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
I went to a Zoom yoga class this week with them. And I got to meet virtually Alyssa, who is their leader, who has been the one who loves us and helps sponsor us. And the greatest thing was we had Crime Writers On listeners from around the world that also came to the yoga class with us.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
It was crazy. We had Kathy in Switzerland. We had Rita in Illinois. And we had a couple others. We had somebody who didn't really like yoga, but felt like they probably needed it right now. And it was really awesome. That was my first like virtual exercise class like that. And I was like, I'm not so sure about this, but I'm like, you know what? They have supported us. So I'm going to be doing that again. So I will be posting it up in our Facebook group if anyone wants to join me for yoga next week.
Yeah. I got to say, when we like sort of pipe dream started our Patreon and we put up that like one level, it was like $100 a month, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
To like sponsor the name of our studio. And then someone did it sort of as a nice thing to honor her brother for 1 month. And we thought maybe once in a while people would do it. Alyssa has been that patron for a long ass time.
She's responsible for the Yoga Loft above the bodega in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi
studio.
The Yoga Loft is a real loft.
She's responsible for when I interview people for the Netflix podcast are like, wait, you're in Mississippi, right? I'm like, no. I'm not. I'm in New Hampshire. But anyway, Alyssa, thank you very much. But
yes,
I'm
thank
sorry.
you.
I'm sorry you're not the patron of the week. It's that guy, Anthony.
Well, it's okay. She's my patron of the week because it got all my kinks and stress out, and it was pretty awesome.
And by the way, if you want to join or see anything going on at that Yoga Loft, it's Loft BSL, as in Bay St. Louis, loftbsl.com.
Nice. But also you could just join our Patreon at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia. I don't want to overshadow Alyssa, but for God's sakes, Kevin, get your priorities straight. All right, let's start the show, shall we?
Let's do it.
This is not a whodunit mystery or a story about an innocent man falsely accused. Slava's guilty. He told me so. But there's something else he wants you to know.
There are no villains in this story. There's no winners, but there's no villains.
Pretty much nobody else involved with the story agrees with that.
It was the coolest place for young journalists to work. Vice had a reputation of hard-hitting gonzo journalism, and for Vice Canada music editor Slava Paskov, working there opened doors normally closed to him.
Once you tell someone that not only you work for Vice, but that you work for the music portion of Vice, their entire demeanor towards you changes. And it goes from them talking about themselves to talking about this band that they know, or their friend who's a musician, or their buddy that owns a studio. And they go into sales mode with you. Now they want something from you.
But Slava wanted to advance advice and believed the only way to do so was through more extreme journalism. Because of a mix of greed and ambition, Slava orchestrated a failed attempt to smuggle millions in drugs to Australia.
And that's the reason why Slava says he jumped at the chance to get involved in an international drug smuggling ring. It was for the story. He thought that trafficking drugs to Australia would be a good move for his media career. But things did not work out that way.
In Canada Land's 6-part series, Cool Mules, host Kasia Mihailovich presents Slava's cautionary tale about what amounted to a multi-level marketing scheme for hard drugs. Was he after a story, or was it a convenient excuse to be a criminal? The series is also a takedown of corporate culture at Vice, which seemed to believe that being cool was the best way to compensate their journalists. Now, we will be talking about plot points from Cool Mules, so to get our spoiler-free review, just go to the time code listed in our show notes. Kevin, you love the writing of this podcast. Can you tell me why?
I think it was a pretty solid journalistic podcast. I mean, we started off knowing that it's not an investigation. And if I'm going to look at the genre of Canadian podcasts, it's been hit or miss. The CBC has put out some really good stuff and some really bad stuff. I'd put this from Canada Land. I'd put this on the shelf of good things. We know it's not an investigation. It's more a look back at the story, which is fine. It is a cautionary tale, as you say. And I think that it's done very well. And I want to talk about Vice later because I did not think that would be an important aspect to the story.
Yeah.
Nor would I think that it would be an interesting one. But I was wrong.
Oh, it's to me the best part of the story. And one of the things that makes it the best part of the story, Lara, is that Slava basically has no journalistic experience or credentials, and is able to, because he's a white guy with a beard, basically, like everyone else at Vice, parlay his very limited experience into a very plum job, which, granted, doesn't pay great, but is high profile. How did you feel when you heard how he actually got this job advice? You know, it's like literally like he self-published a book and then he wrote some like snarky stuff on the internet. And then next thing you know, he's now got this plum journalism job. How did that make you feel as someone who's been working in the trenches of journalism for decades, Laura Bricker?
He's a total D-bag. I hate that guy. I'm sorry. I hate him so much. He just has he's such a narcissist and I'm just tired of listening to him. So I'm glad this podcast is over. But it was like ridiculous because clearly and he even acknowledges yeah, I didn't go to school for journalism. I don't know. And I'm like, okay, so I went to school for journalism and yeah, I also didn't make any money when I got out of college. But guess what? I didn't go smuggle cocaine because I'm a D-bag, and get other people into it who are now in jail in Australia. So I just found the whole world of Vice just sort of irritating because it was this sort of quest to be trendy and this quest to be hip and this quest to be the it publication and the it media company sort of overshadowed that whole journalism ethics piece and even just journalism background piece that we would expect to see in a publication, especially a publication that, is pretty well known. So it just annoyed me.
Toby, thoughts?
It was interesting listening to Laura talk about that because Vice, it clearly doesn't it's not trying to fill the normal sort of journalism product role, right? I mean, it's not delivering news of the day or whatever, or even in-depth things about things that are newsworthy. It's more what's kind of cool or trying to set a tone, at least at the beginning. I'm not a Vice completist or anything, but and that's what gives opportunities for people like Slava who are willing to kind of go there and kind of be pricks, but in a way that kind of fits with this aesthetic that Vice, that guy Gavin, whatever his last name is. I get all the Gavins mixed up. I keep thinking of the guy on the Love Boat, but I know it's not him.
Gavin McLeod.
Gavin McLeod. He's one of those guys who would just be kind of that jerk you don't like to hang out with, but happens to be friends with one of your friends, except that he came around at a time with kind of new media and having this guy Gavin come up with this idea of having this super snarky, irreverent, but not in a nice way, publication. And it's oh, okay, this is for people with my kind of dickish personality to really shine.
Yeah.
So I think he kind of lucked out.
Now, Kevin, I used to work from 2010 to 2013 on a public radio talk show. I used to be the producer of it and then the senior producer. We used to book a lot of Vice stories to be on my talk show. Mm-hmm. Vice, before it became the company it is now, was this little magazine. I actually remember before 2010, whenever we talked about going from paper to glossy, I remember finding the free copies of Vice around and being what is this? Mm-hmm. But it was cool and it had, a sort of an edginess to it. And then when it kind of made that transition to journalism, it was notable. That being said, it did very much set up the culture of, the internet speak, as one of the episodes in this podcast points out. But I have a more basic question for you. Mm-hmm. The journalist advice, people who work for Vice talk about being paid almost nothing or whatever, and they talk about that being a big trade-off, but that's just journalism, as we actually know from many people. Mm-hmm. Do you think that Slava committed this crime so that he could tell the story in Vice? I mean, do you buy that at all, given what we hear about the kinds of stories they were doing?
Yeah, the why of this story is way more important than the what. I think it's more an interesting conversation to think about Slava's motivations and his actions. He likes to say, oh, well, it was this very edgy gonzo journalism outfit, and they were doing all these stories about smuggling stuff in your butt. And, all these crazy, you would think they were Onion headlines.
Yeah.
Kinds of stories.
I fell in love with my vibrator.
Yeah, stuff.
I mean, that's in the pot. What is I had sex with a robot. Here's what happened.
Yeah.
They have continued to publish stories like how I became an international cocaine trafficker, my life as an international ketamine smuggler. The true meaning of Family Day is cocaine. Here's how much Here's how much you can make smuggling things in your ass. And I smuggled cocaine into the U.S. to try to pay off my student loans.
But the idea, just was he doing it for a story? No, I think it was a convenient cover. It might have been a petri dish of bad behaviors, but it wasn't an excuse. I think it was a very convenient cover story for why you would continue to. If he was doing it, here's the thing: if he was doing it for a story, and maybe it would be a fantastic Vice story.
Maybe it started that way.
Maybe. Some kernel of it was. Maybe, there was a chicken and an egg thinking about, I could do this, and then it would be a great story. You know what a great story would be? Is this. Maybe I could follow through. It doesn't matter. If you did it once, you got your story. You start recruiting other people. You're doing it again.
You're
a drug trafficker. Yeah. So
what's the most gonzo thing you ever did for a story, Kevin?
Gonzo?
Yeah, I'm curious. Was it when you wore the flak jacket to go cover the Browns?
Yeah, but that's not gonzo.
No, I know. Was it when you went to the hamster lady and pretended that you liked hamsters?
I did fun, goofy gonzo stuff.
Yes.
I didn't do I'm going undercover as a male prostitute kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You didn't traffic any humans to get a story.
Negative.
Like that?
Toby, what do you think? Do you buy Slava's tale that he, this whole time, was thinking this would be a great Vice story and that this would get him a TV show? Or do you think he was just in it for the money and the power over these less fortunate freelancers?
No, I mean, I can see at the beginning where maybe just being in that atmosphere where people are like, this would be pretty badass. And you're like, yeah, maybe I'll smuggle drugs somewhere. In that way, he reminds me a little bit of, what was that one that we did like a few months ago in Washington about that guy who used to be a football player and robbed the bank, and he had all those people dressed up the same to hang out in his parking lot.
That wasn't a few months ago. That was actually super recently.
Yeah. The snake?
Yeah,
Wasn't
the
it
snake.
Yeah, well, it was before the COVID era, so
That's
it was
true.
a few months ago.
It was before Tiger King, so it was like a year ago.
Yeah. So anyway, he reminds me a little bit of that guy, maybe, but not like that guy seemed a little more relatable and less of a jerk than Slava does. But I could see where the germ of the idea comes from hanging out in an area, in a work environment where people are doing these kind of stuntish type things and thinking, wow, maybe this will be cool. But then it takes off from there. And clearly, like, you can't make a show about smuggling drugs back and forth.
Right.
Like that's got one episode in it.
Right.
And then you get busted. So it's just bullshit. He just seems like the whole time, he seems like a guy who's not, and I think people say it, he's not as smart as he thinks he is. And he thinks like these ridiculous things that he can kind of talk himself into are going to actually be compelling to other people. And they're just not.
Now, Laura, he does give this excuse of the culture advice.
Yeah.
We do hear, by the way, to me, one of the most interesting details about the early culture advice is the agreement you have to sign when you work there. Because they love free speech, people might say things to you or do things that you don't like.
Right.
But you just have to deal with it, and that's just what it takes to work here.
Like your ass looks fine.
It's basically a sexual harassment apology letter that you have to sign when you start working there. But Laura, there is sort
just
of...
like Toby had a sign when he started on this podcast.
I can't say this is true with my newsroom, but I'm friends with people who worked in other newsrooms and used to be friends with people who worked in newsrooms in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
This is not newsroom culture, right?
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. I mean, when I was in the newsroom, when I was actually working in a newsroom full time in like the late 90s and early 2000s, I mean, there was all sorts of stuff that went on that was like funny. And you look at it now and you're like, okay, you probably couldn't do that now. And it was just like practical joking and kind of things like that. And that was sort of like you had to have sort of like this gallows humor sort of approach sometimes to get through some of the stories you were covering and some of the situations you were in. And, I remember making like fake newspaper pages of like, people and stories and stuff, which you could never do now. And like posting them on the wall and like being like, this guy looks like the, Bat Boy from Weekly World News or something, somebody that we were like covering. And it was super inappropriate, but it was just kind of funny because it was like, an inside joke or whatever. But I guess like the culture thing that sort of stuck with me with this when I was listening to it is like another sort of thing that did happen at that time when I was a full-time journalist is there would be like this sort of exodus of people that would leave full-time journalism to go work at these places that had the perks that you're hearing about in like the Vice newsroom, in the Vice office, like the beer keg in the office, the snacks in the office, the whole office gets to work out because it's part of our team thing. And we have this super cool office where it's super flexible and you can wear normal people clothes and you don't have to, you know what I mean? And so like there is this sort of draw to that sort of culture, especially I think for younger recent college graduates entering the workforce who want a different sort of environment. So
we have a bar at our office.
Our office in our house.
That's right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, didn't you guys have people like that you used to work? I mean, like Kevin, you must have had journalism. And Kevin, you went over to the PR side for a while. And it's like they would have all these little perks in their office.
Oh,
they'd be like,
man.
here's like the snack cabinet or whatever, you know?
Yes.
Like, did
Yes.
you have a snack cabinet?
Oh, yes. And they just keep it stuffed with peanut butter and
Granola bars.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I remember they had a masseuse who would come once a
yes,
month.
they did at your first field trip.
Don't say.
I remember.
No, not that kind of masseuse, but like a
Yes, I remember that.
massage therapist who would come in and would do all the executives, and then they would pick. It was like a raffle. 5 staff members would get that.
Like a
month.
shoulder massage
Yeah,
at your desk.
that happened, and then the economy crashed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got rid of all that except the person who came around and watered the plants once.
Yes.
Whatever the fuck. But yeah, I mean, there was.
We have
hey,
that
all the
person in
peanut
our
butter
office,
you
too.
can spread
If you're
on.
going to
Yeah.
have plants in your office, somebody does have to, like those plants are rented. You know that, right?
Look, I'll say that it wasn't so much when I was in radio. I didn't see it that much. But when I was in TV, it wasn't widespread, but you could tell that sort of the general culture in the industry, I'm not going to say at my workplace, but the industry was that a lot of the reporters were hired, not because they were fantastic journalists, but because they looked good.
Because they were cool.
They were cool or whatever. But when you have hot young men and hot young women working in the same place, there's that. Now there are people like me who didn't look fantastic, but could get by and could do a real story. And I still have friends that are like, yeah, you could tell. Like, you just watch your local news. You know who is there because they're a beauty queen, and you know who's there because she is a fantastic journalist.
Right.
And so that's just sort of part of the petri dish that ends up being media workplace culture. And as you get bigger up and higher up in the food chain and the media market, that just happens.
But I want to talk about Vice, though.
But there's not a lot of 50-year-olds working at Vice.
Because Vice was not a media workplace culture. It was more of like a tech bro, douchebag culture.
Yeah.
In episode 5, which is, I think,
Libertarian nihilist,
super brilliant, they talk about how this thing started. And it was based on lies.
Mm-hmm.
You have both of the founders, Shane and Gavin, talking about on tape in multiple interviews, talking about lies they told. They told advertisers that they were distributed across the North America, when literally they were just like mailing a magazine to a skate shop in Austin. They talked about like multiple, they would just make up stuff. The guy would take articles from people, rewrite them completely, fill them with untruths, and then just like put the person's byline on them. And then you have Justin Ling, who we know, by the way, he hosted CBC's Uncover the Village.
Right, good podcast.
And he's a really great journalist. He talks about, no, this is a regular journalism organization. And I just want to throw something out there, both to Justin and to you guys. Both of those things can be true, I think. This place could have been started as a dumpster fire pile of lies with a horrible culture that propagated a bunch of shit that made someone like Slava think he could traffic drugs and get away with it. It could also be a place for a younger journalist like Justin Ling to be a freelancer and then a staff writer or whatever his role is now. He just works for them and it's super boring because they have an HR director now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, both of those things can be true, right?
Yeah.
You just didn't sexually harass enough people.
I mean, I don't know how much you can expand on it, but I mean, I think there's plenty of organizations that have a culture that's not very attractive, but also have aspects to them that are very effective and beneficial and professional and stuff like that. And I think even here there was, there was an evolution, right? Where, they had to move forward. They couldn't keep going in this, we're assholes, that being your
We're
business.
Proud Boys founder assholes.
Yeah. That being your business model. And they do. I mean, I think like the one piece of Vice reporting that I'm most familiar with is the stuff that a woman whose name I'm not going to remember did in Charlottesville.
Absolutely, on
right.
HBO.
And they used that clip, yeah.
Yeah, that was the best reporting that came out of that from people on the ground.
Mos Def.
Oh, and wasn't that guy from New Hampshire?
Yes, he was.
The crying Nazi.
But yeah, I think it's easy to have an organization that has like a culture, but also has people who work outside the culture very effectively. So it's not a surprise.
Laura, what do you think? Do you think that both things can be true? That you can be a dumpster fire, an HR nightmare, the most poisonous, most horrible place to work, but also for someone like Justin Ling, who's like a viable contributor, also just be a news outlet who's making stuff and stuff that's valuable to look at and listen to and watch?
No, I think I actually that kind of reminds me. There was a situation in my journalistic career where we had this like crazy editor, and the culture was like, it was so bad. They had like, I mean, not to get too much into it, but it was like a really crazy time to work where I worked. And it was just super unhealthy. But at the same time, I was getting clips. I was still getting good stories. I was still doing my job. I was just trying to avoid that dumpster fire component of what was going on in my workplace.
Yeah.
And eventually the crazy guy left. And every once in a while, I wonder what happened to him. But, so I think that there is,
You're a private investigator, Laura Bricker. You could find that out if you wanted
I've
to.
been looking. I think, I don't know, maybe he's changed his name or something. But anyway, so I do think that there are definitely times when you work places like that where it's like, this is good experience. And if whereas in some jobs you leave and you get, just a reference, when you're a journalist and you're a writer and you work at some crazy place, if you get some good clips and some good samples of your work, you can take those elsewhere and get out of that crazy place.
Look, I think we've talked a lot about Vice and sort of the industry and how that affects people. I think there's a good question that we should try to answer, which is about whether or not Canadaland should have done this podcast.
Yes.
Because...
Yes, they should have.
Because we know, and it's very explicit at the end, but also in the beginning, that Slava's motivation for talking is to get popular attention, right? He's just soliciting the media attention. And so Katja doesn't do like a whole lot of self-introspection, but she does tell us who this guy is and lets us make that decision about how we feel about him. And so I think that, we talk about that axiom about whether or not when you do this, you either betray your audience or you betray your subject when you tell this story. Whose edges are you softening? Who are you betraying? And I think in this case, Slava probably feels betrayed. I think the audience gets the best of it.
Slava tells her, Slava betrays himself.
Yeah. The only
he
thing
tells
he
her stuff
wants
that
is
contradicts his own stuff.
You can say, I'm a bad person, but you can't say I'm a liar, right? Like, I'm being completely honest with what I'm putting forward out there. And I take solace in that, at least tell the truth about being a bad person.
But Slava hasn't always told us the truth about being a bad person. We remind him that he hasn't been completely honest with us. He's lied, on the record. Like the time he said this.
I took a trip to Australia, but I didn't take any cocaine with me. I talked my way out of that.
All he wants is it to not be boring.
Listen, Kasia is awesome, and this podcast reported awesomely because Slava will say something, and Kasia will say, did you hear that? Now let's remember what he said 5 minutes ago. That was totally different than the thing he just said. She in no way glamorizes this guy. This is not a Netflix documentary and treatment of Joe Exotic we got here. Like, I don't think there's any sense that we're supposed to think Slava is a hero in any way in this podcast. So I say, I'm sorry, Justin Ling. I love you. But yes, Canadaland should have made this podcast. That's just my opinion. All right. Well, let's do what we do. Let's let our listeners know. Should they check out Cool Mules, the podcast from Canadaland that looks at a Vice Canada music editor turned drug trafficker? Laura Bricker, what do you think? You are the one who recommended that we review this podcast. I'm curious as to your review.
Yeah, I think you should. I think this is a really interesting story. You've got, not only do you have some newsroom culture and some media world culture, you also have this sort of crazy story that we didn't get into too much about the actual drug smuggling ring that this guy recruited some other young people to get involved with. And that's a whole crazy story in itself. So I think it's really interesting. I think we listen to so many different podcasts, and a lot of them are murder related or something like cold case related. And this is kind of a different story. And it's a really interesting sort of window into this world. And also just sort of a window into this media company and what went on that allowed something like this to happen.
Toy Ball, what about you? Thumbs up or thumbs down for Cool Mules from Canada Land?
Yeah, I give it a thumbs up. I think like you, the stuff about Vice is the most interesting part of it. But the story around Slava is interesting as well. He's not sympathetic, but I think she gives him enough rope, right? And and he's going in eyes wide open, man. I mean, he's part of it's not.
His lawyer told him not to do it, right? And he did it anyway.
Yeah, it's not like he's naive. I mean, he's not smart, but he's not naive. He's from this world, so it's hard to feel that sorry for him. So anyway, yeah, thumbs up. I think people like it.
Kevin Flynn.
Yeah, overall, a solid profile. It balances not being an investigation, as they explain up front, and calling someone else out on their bullshit. I'm a thumbs up. Slava is an interesting character, not likable, not tried to make likable by the host, nor vilified. But like Toby says, he was hoisted by his own petard.
Yeah, Slava's a douchebag. I agree with Laura on that. I like this podcast only because Kasia does not pull any punches. When she says something, she then backs it up with tape. It's really well made. To me, some of the most interesting stuff is about Vice and the Vice culture. And Kasia's really upfront about it. She said she's been wanting to report on Vice for a long time. And frankly, I think a lot of people have been wanting to report on Vice for a long time. And this story about Slava and his very stupid, ineffective attempts to create this international drug smuggling empire, which, by the way, does have real victims in the form of young people who are imprisoned in Australia. Slava, you piece of dirt. It's just really well done in that regard. Doesn't pull any punches, backs up everything it says. And I don't know, I really liked it. Justin Ling, I love you, man, but you're wrong. She totally should have made this podcast. So thumbs up for me. Moving on. On a cold Icelandic night, a man is murdered dockside, his eyelids slashed. What did he see that made him a target for the killer? In Netflix's foreign language series, The Valhalla Murders, we follow Kata, a Reykjavik homicide detective and divorced mom assigned to the case. When additional victims are discovered, she's paired with a detective from Oslo returning to his hometown. The investigators discover the growing list of victims have a connection from deep in their past. The Valhalla Murders is the latest in a growing number of shows set in Iceland, which try to capture their own version of Scandinavian noir. But does the story get either that Scandi style or the interest of streaming mystery lovers? Now, we'll be giving spoiler alerts for the Valhalla Murders, so to stay spoiler-free, check out the time code in our show notes for our thumbs up or thumbs down review. Kevin, before we start the review, for our listeners who have not checked out the Valhalla Murders, tell them how to watch it and what not to do.
Yeah, you got to watch it in the native language, and it's Icelandic, just like we said with Dark,
yes,
which was in German. Watch with the English subtitles because you'll have to hear and see that it matches the performance better.
Hi.
Hi.
Getur við aðeins spila saman?
Já.
Kannski inni. Það er aldrei kalt.
Hi. Hi.
Do you have a minute to speak with me?
What? Yeah.
Inside. It's pretty cold.
Býtu, hann sonur minn líka. Ég bara hitt hann þeim með sýnist. Ég gerði ekkert við hann. Ertu svona rugglumanniska?
Well, he's also my son. I'll be seeing him too. You're crazy, woman. I didn't touch my son.
And that's why it sounds stupid.
So I watched like half of this before I realized that I needed to do this. I was like, oh, these people, they talk really funny. And I'm like, they seem so stilted. And so then I turned to Facebook and I was like, hey, you guys, should I switch the language? And everyone's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
what's the matter with you, Laura?
It was awful. It'd be like, Kevin, I am going to go over here. What do you think? And I was like, what's wrong with these people? So I actually went back and rewatched the earlier episodes with the subtitles on, and it was such a better experience. So that is a testimonial right there.
For those who don't know how to do it, you just check out your audio settings on Netflix, on whatever platform, whether it's your smart TV or your laptop. It's pretty easy to change. Remember, just keep the audio is in Icelandic or as Icelandic 5.1, depending on your system, and English subtitles. It's that's the way to go.
It seems like there's a market opportunity for good dubbing.
Wow. Toby,
Partners in Crime Media has a new outfit.
See, I completely disagree. I love the Scandi Noir in the original languages.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin, what is my all-time favorite noir show, Scandi Noir show?
It's called Bridge or Brun.
Brun. Which
Two
I
different
think
languages.
that Toby, you watched as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
And Laura, did you watch Brun?
I never did, even though you talked about it. It's on Hulu, right?
It's the best.
Yeah, it's really good.
Okay.
And by the way, one of the benefits, well, two of the benefits to listening to something in the original language and watching the subtitles is A, you can't do the second screen thing. You can't look at your phone while watching, so you actually watch it.
It's brutal.
And second, you learn a little bit of the language that you are watching. So, for instance, in all of the Scandi languages, Kevin, what's the word for thanks?
Tak.
What's the word for yes?
Yeah.
Yao. What's the word for no? Nay.
Nay.
Like, we know.
What's the word for fuck? Fuck.
What's the word for mistake? Mistook.
Mistook. What's the word for white trash?
White trash. And anytime, Kevin,
I'm ready to go to Reykjavik.
Anytime a police
Oslo.
department in one country emails something to a police department in another country, what's great about it?
It's in English.
It's always in English. It's like this random English moment.
It's like air traffic control.
But there are other things that are great about Scandi Noir. To me, the main thing that's great about it, aside from the language stuff and the experiential stuff, is the scenery stuff. Lara Bricker, what do you think getting to see, this is in Iceland in this case, Iceland on your screen and all of its majestic, mountainous, icy glory? Thoughts, Lara Bricker?
I'm going to say it's awesome. It's a lot better than when I tried to make my own fake Peloton this week and watch like exercise videos from places like that. That didn't work for me, but this show did. And I think that's what I initially drew me into the show was like this sort of, like we've called it before, like this location porn. Like you get to see these like kind of B-roll aerial shots when somebody's driving somewhere in a car, and you get to see the landscape and the housing style. And I think, this particular scenery was just sort of had that sort of like gritty, sort of murderish, mysteryish. I mean, it just seemed like it fit that type of a story as you were watching that sort of footage that they were showing.
As far as Icelandic noir, this sort of subgenre of Scandi noir, I think a better example is Trapped, which you can find on Prime.
Yes.
It's a better use of the sparse and desolate nature of Iceland and its outer regions, where this is, Reykjavik is not Las Vegas or New York, but it's not a great example of noir. What is noir? It's atmospheric, it's dark, and it's morally ambiguous. Toby knows this. He writes noir. You can set a type of noir, sort of any setting, so long as you have that. I don't think, Toby, in this case, that they utilize the isolation and the cold earth of Iceland like they could.
Yeah, I didn't feel like this was super noir-y at all.
Yeah.
I think the genre is Scandinavian noir, but I think that describes like basically Scandinavian mysteries. And this didn't seem like all the usual sort of themes of noir are kind of lacking here. It's almost kind of the opposite. So that was just one of the things I didn't like about this.
Toby, I agree with you. And one of the things that a lot of Scandi Noir brings to the table, like a show like Bron, for example, or Trapped, is this very deep character development. There's always like sort of this sense that when you meet somebody, there's something going on here that and I'm sorry to keep bringing up Trapped. It's just so freaking good. The first scene where you meet Andri in Trapped, who's the protagonist of that show, you think he's like a yokel, maybe criminal for like a few minutes in the beginning of the series. And then he puts on his Longraland jacket, which as we know is the word for police in Icelandic. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. And you realize, oh wait, no, he's the cop.
Right.
After you see him kind of lumbering around the town, but you've already figured out there's more there. And to me, this show, the Valhalla murders, layers on character stories either too late or not well. Like, I don't feel like deeply connected to Kata. I don't feel deeply connected to her partner, which has his he has this mysterious backstory. Laura, what do you think?
Yeah, I that was one of the things about this is I felt like there was this sort of one-dimensional thing with some of the characters that I didn't feel like, even when they tried to give this sort of subplot about something going on in someone's personal life, I didn't feel like I was really drawn into it, because as soon as they'd go down that road, they'd drop it and never pick the thread up again. So like we have Kata and we have her ex-husband and the kid. But then like as soon as you think there's something that's going to happen with the drama with her kid, she's like, oh, I've got to go to work now. And that's like the end of it. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, and then she'll come home and then like it's like the random mom who's at her house. So I'm like, what is her point in this? Because like she doesn't do shit. She just is like, I want a key. Where are you? And then like we never see her again.
Make tea.
Yeah, I'm making some
I'm going to
cake.
wear my carpal tunnel brace.
Yeah. And I'm like, and she's like, where is whatever the son's name? Oh, he's not here. And then I'm like, oh, and that's the end of it. So I felt like that was the thing for me, is like there was definitely like this police procedural part of it, but like the personal lives and like feeling connected to the characters for me just fell sort of flat.
No, I agree. We also have Agnar, who's like the cop from, Away. Yeah. But he's from there originally. He's
very broody.
Kevin?
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like this is trying to take, the past couple of weeks, I've talked about like not comparing one piece of art to another.
That's right, Kevin. However,
I'm just going to say,
I forgive you in advance.
It seems like it falls somewhere between Trapped and another great Scandi noir piece, which is Bridge, Brun Brun. The conceit of which is that you've got a detective from Sweden and a detective from Norway who are both working on the case. Denmark. Okay, whatever the fuck. I don't have a globe, Rebecca. They speak a different language. I just read it. Well, you have a detective from someplace else coming in.
Listen, everyone's attractive. They have clean energy. They all have good teeth. They all have great health care.
Arnar, however you say his name, with, the tall detective. He comes in. He's from Oslo. There's no real reason why they bring him in.
Right.
It isn't like he's a profiler or some expert. We just know that he comes in and he's a little odd, so it reminds me of what's her name from Bridge.
Yeah.
But it's taking that, and then I'll just say the last thing I'll say about Trapped is what it did great is its location in Iceland. It's in like one of these little port towns, and there was an avalanche. They are cut off.
They're
not
trapped.
just in the world. They're in Iceland, cut off. They're trapped.
They're literally trapped.
And that sets, the scene. It sets the
murderer's there.
Yes, but it's this whole tension, the brooding of the land. And you don't quite get either of that. You don't quite get the scenery of Trapped. You don't get the character development of Brun.
But they try. I mean, Toby, they try to make our male detective Agnar, or however you say his name. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be insensitive. It's just that it goes by quickly. They try. They give him this cult Jehovah's Witness-ish backstory. They show that he's gay. They try to explain why he may feel like an outsider or not really connect with people. With Kata, they show her, I don't know, swimming in a super cold pool. They show
tough
her
and fit.
ex-husband. They show her being handed, not getting the promotion, and this other woman mysteriously getting it for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
Toby, do you also feel like the character development here just didn't deliver?
Have you seen Office Space?
Yeah.
That movie? So there's like this pretty funny scene where Jennifer Aniston, I think, is working at
Flingers.
some ridiculous
TGI
restaurant.
Fridays.
She was at Flingers.
Oh, Flingers.
Yeah, and she's supposed to wear those little
Flare.
buttons or whatever.
Yes.
Flare. And I kind of feel like that's what these people's personality is like they've got these little pieces of flair about them that you're supposed to connect with them, but they don't actually really affect the way they act or what their personalities are like. It's just like, here's another little fact about this person that makes them seem like they're real. But there's at no point does any of that stuff have any impact on the actual story you're watching or the decisions they make.
Yeah.
Like the only time it even seems to slightly come up is when Agnar, takes a liking to the son of one of the men who's murdered at the very beginning. And that too is just like, it's a subplot that doesn't do anything. It doesn't reveal anything about anything.
Right.
I found it all very frustrating because I really wanted to like it. And I've certainly watched some sort of not great, but still sort of fun to watch and entertaining European shows like this. And this was it was just so apparent. It felt like one of those things where it's like, here's a computer program that will write your thriller novel for you. Just put in like 8 different factors and we'll spit it out.
Child molestation, adoption, energy, closed power plants.
Exactly. Like rocking around in the dark without backup. It's
flashlights.
And then it's, and then the whole, and I hate to like give a, I guess we're in the spoiler zone, but this whole thing about there being like a home for wayward boys, basically, where, sexual abuse happens and then there's revenge. Like, this is probably like the 50th, product that has that as the underlying the problem.
100%, Toby. I agree with you. I kept turning to Kevin and being like, isn't this Skyfall, the James Bond movie? Isn't this like, it's like everything where they're like.
It has something to do with a boys' home?
Orphans. Let me guess what happened here. And I don't mean to like in any way belittle like systematic sexual abuse. However, it was not done creatively in any way in this episode. I completely agree with you. Can I just tell you the one thing I did like about it?
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw it out there.
It's a podcast. Go for it.
I like that country cop. The cop up by Valhalla.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
He was the one character like I just really loved and was like, he's the Andre of this series. Like,
yes.
He is the heart. Like, if he had been the protagonist, the country cop who's like in this far out outpost place trying to put these pieces together and is the one who not only sends in the report because it's the right thing to do, but then calls the judge and is like, I just want to make sure my email like got there securely. He is the
post. Yes, that's the email and
but he is. Congratulations.
Yeah.
He's basically like the Margie from Fargo. If this whole thing had been built around him, I don't know. To me, it would have been
pregnant.
different.
But you know what the thing about that is, and I agree with you that he's the most compelling character in the entire thing. is that we don't know anything about him other than just what you see him doing almost entirely in the police department or like roaming around somewhere on police business. Like, you don't know if he's married, if he has kids, whether his parents abuse it. You don't know any of this stuff, but he comes off as being much more of a real person.
Yeah.
Than any of these other people who you get all these like bizarre little factoids that don't seem to have any actual effect on the way they act.
Listen, she was a champion swimmer and there was a swimming scene at the end that was very important, Toby.
Oh, okay.
Well, I have one more thing that I thought was so strange that also really frustrated me. And ironically, I actually didn't hate this, but there was a lot of things that frustrated me about the show. So we have Kata, who's supposed to be getting the promotion, and then we have the woman who actually gets the promotion. Now, did you ever actually see them actually have a conversation this entire series, more than like 2 words? That was so fucking strange.
You mean the 2 women?
Yes.
Listen, she was mad at
she yelled at
Kata
each
for
other,
being rude to Peter, who then later drugged Kata and tried to murder her.
But
on
it was
his
so
boat.
strange. I was
Dexter style.
Like she was just conducting her investigation, and like they like operated. They were like toddlers that were like parallel playing or something.
Yeah. Well, as soon as I saw her, I said, "But wait a minute, what about my 30-year-old investigation?" I'm like, that's going to come up. That's not a throwaway thing. It's going to be connected to whatever the fuck's going on.
All right. Well, it sounds like we have opinions about Valhalla Murders on Netflix. So this is going to be a tough one. Because it's going to be, I'm just going to say it, one of those ones that I would have watched anyway, even though I have problems with it. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Laura Bricker, Valhalla Murders on Netflix. What say you, Laura Bricker?
I'm so sorry, Patrick Hines, but it's a thumb sideways because I have to tell you,
he's doing fine.
He's a homesteader now. So, I mean, seriously, it's going to be a reality show before we know it. But I'm just going to say, like, I didn't love this. I didn't hate this, but I continued to watch it. So, I mean, like right now, we have a lot of time on our hands. So that's why I'm giving it a thumb sideways. Because it was interesting because like the scenery, the setting, sort of that sort of part of this, I found interesting. Once I figured out how to put the correct subtitles on, that made it a lot better. The actual, like, you know, police procedural, it was pretty predictable and everything. But at the same time, it wasn't horrible. It was just, there was like the character development really wasn't, you know, it was just not there. But I mean, at the same time, I kept watching it. So, I mean, what does that say? So, thumb sideways.
What about you, Toby Ball? Thumbs up or thumbs down for Valhalla Murders on Netflix?
Yeah,
it's tough.
You know,
it's tough. Is it not?
It's a strong thumb sideways.
It's fucking tough.
If like a huge thumb down is a 0, thumb sideways is like a 5, and a big thumbs up is a 10. This is like a 4. You know,
Sounds like a thumbs down then, Toby, but barely thumbs down.
It's a slight thumbs.
Mild.
You know, it's just
diagonally down.
Let him describe it. What is it? Come on, where is your finger? Where is it? Is it pointing to 3 o'clock? Is it pointing to 12 o'clock?
It's like one of those things where, like, I don't know, those cheesy shows where, you know, you end up getting a hand transplant and it's like a murderer's hand and it's like trying to do certain things and you're trying to keep it from doing things. And it, you know, so I'm struggling.
Oh my God, I wish I didn't have cancer so I could actually laugh at that.
It's like one of those shows where it's like a
murderer's hand.
Nice.
I've never seen one of
Have
those
you seen
shows.
that?
Yeah, sure. So Toby,
what show is
there's
that?
one about a cartoonist, I think. There's one about a cartoonist who like gets his hand chopped off and then they like stick a murderer's hand on his
Michael
on his
Caine
stump.
was in that, right?
This has ended up being a long ass recommendation. So I guess my feeling is it's about as run of the mill as you get. I want to give it a thumbs down, but at the same time, if you're just, you know, you just can't take it anymore, you don't want it to think very much.
So it's a coronavirus thumb sideways?
Yeah, if you just want to lie down on the couch and just stare blankly at the TV and you know, 20 or 30 minutes can pass and then you can pick it up again and it's really like you haven't missed that much. You can just pick it right up. This would be perfect for you.
Wow.
So, thumb sideways.
That was maybe the most complicated review that's ever been doled out on this podcast in 5 years. Kevin Flynn, what about you?
I'm going to say something I haven't said in years.
Okay.
Thumb sideways.
Wow.
Yes.
Look, overall, it's solid, but it's a paint-by-number serial killer procedural. Once you know what the connection is between the victims, it's easy to guess where the plot is going. It's not a matter of where the story is pointing to the killer that you should have guessed. It's basically selecting which of the many characters you're not going to guess. So not a lot to criticize, but not a lot to praise either. I did like the idea that when it came to Valhalla, there were a couple of nods to the Valhalla myth. You have Thor, you've got Ragnar, you've got Omar, which could be Odin, and so a slight bit of being clever, but still not enough to save it. I'm giving it a thumb sideways.
Listen, I am 100% with you guys. Thumb sideways for Valhalla Murders.
Did we fucking do 4 thumb sideways?
You know why? Because Scandi Noir, even when it's not good, is so freaking watchable.
Yeah.
Even when it's bad, it's just watchable because you want the scenery.
Watch Trapped instead, people.
Watch
Go to Prime.
Trapped,
Watch Trapped.
Watch Braun, watch whatever. But like Scandi Noir is eminently watchable because even just the culture of any of those countries is so fascinating compared to ours. Like there are tiny moments where, you know, she goes to visit her ex-husband who's clearly in a position to help her and do something ethical. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that because they're just better than we are as people in that part of the world in many ways. I'm not saying all of them, but like.
Or they park in snowbanks.
Exactly.
It's like the whole country's buffalo.
Exactly. And, you know, it's just people are nice and they're kind. And even like when you see a poor person's house, it's actually kind of okay. Like just sort of like the social
I realize
order.
now why all of my Legos from the 70s, that's what they thought architecture was. Like,
Yes.
I know
and
why.
the furniture and architecture and clothing is all amazing.
Yeah.
Everyone has quilted
Yes.
vests and like beautiful
It's
sweaters.
your review, I'm sorry.
So yeah, but so I'm just saying, because Scandi Noir, even bad Scandi Noir is better than our shitty American TV. Like, this was not good. It's still a firm thumb sideways for me for Valhalla Murders. So yes, I think for the first time in the history of this podcast, we have 4 solid thumb sideways. Unprecedented.
Way to pussy out, everybody.
Yeah. Woo! And now it's time for my favorite part of the podcast, a little something I like to call the crime
of the week.
Of the week. State troopers outside of Seattle, Washington were led on a 100-mile-an-hour chase led by a 1996 Buick being driven by a dog.
Dog.
After swerving and striking a few cars along the way, cops could clearly see a panting pit bull behind the wheel. As the canine community refused to heel, they deployed the spike strips to blow out the tires and make the car sit.
Sit.
The pit bull did get some help. Her owner was riding shotgun, steering, and working the gas. He told police he was trying to teach his pet to drive. He didn't explain why, but he certainly needed a designated driver, and the passenger was arrested. The dog was not charged with a moving violation, but was admonished for being a bad girl.
Bad girl. Who's a bad girl?
So the passenger may have been steering, but we know his four-legged friend was in charge. Panel, where was this dog going? Laura Bricker, what do you think?
Well, I think that the dog heard there was curbside pickup of dog bones. And I can tell you that my dog Buddy would probably drive a car to do that because we ran out of dog bones during this period and he was eating crackers at night for his little snack. And I think he would totally get behind the wheel of a car and drive like that.
Toy Ball, where do you think this dog was trying to go?
Can I just a clarifying question? If the owner is working the wheel and the gas, what exactly is this dog doing to drive?
It was like one of those country mail delivery people.
Is he working the gear shift?
Listen, we live in the country.
Stick. Yeah.
And we have our regular mail lady who has the old Subaru from the 90s.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that. It wasn't that. The guy reached over with his left leg.
Listen.
Yeah.
We have the other mail carrier who is literally just sitting on the passenger side and has a jerry-rigged steering wheel and gas and brake thing and is putting the mail in. It was that, right?
No, it was a 50-year-old drunk guy with his pit bull sitting on the driver's seat with two paws on the wheel, going 100 miles an hour.
100.
It wasn't fucking a mail carrier, Rebecca.
I'm saying just
I was about to say, based on this conversation, I just assume he was delivering mail.
What about you, Kevin Flynn? Where was this pit bull trying to go?
I don't know where the dog's trying to go, but Cat's got fucking motorcycles, so vroom vroom.
All right, we should probably end on that note, but before we do, Laura Bricker, do we have a cat of the week this week?
No, we have a dog. Woof woof.
Yay!
Does the dog drive a car?
Is its name Briscoe?
Is it the same dog?
No, the dog's name it's Harper. And I'm gonna share this because this is a follow-up of our review last week of the Tiger King. And it's also something that you can do at home with the kids when they're bored. So Emily Milligan Thompson nominated Harper. And Harper, she says, we've been busy babysitting for some neighborhood kids this week. And she was a good sport during today's craft time, which was inspired by the Tiger King. So Harper looks to be like some sort of a white German Shepherdy lab retriever cross. And Harper now looks like a big cat because Harper has been painted by the neighborhood kids with some sort of, crayon, marker, spray paint. So Harper's looking pretty good. You got to do what you got to do to pass the time right now.
All right, Laura Bricker, folks want to reach out to you to nominate their pets, especially if they're dogs, to be cat of the week. How can they find you on Twitter?
At Laura Bricker.
And Toy Ball, folks want to reach out to you to congratulate you on your chart-topping, star-making, Crime Writers On eclipsing podcast, Strange Arrivals. How can they find you on Twitter?
You can tweet to my assistant at TobyBall.
And Kevin Flynn, if folks want to reach out to you to say, Kevin, where is your chart-topping UFO podcast? How can they find you on Twitter?
You can eat 12 fucking dicks. You can tweet to me at Kevin P. Flynn.
And if you want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, you can find me at Reb Lavoie. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Crime Writers On, and I encourage you to join the amazing community in our official Crime Writers On Facebook discussion group. We also have a regular old Facebook page, by the way, where you can see awesome live videos of all the crime writers 4 nights a week, except when we forget. Support the show on patreon.com/Partners in Crime Media, and you will get the Crime Writers On After Show right now with more amazing Joe Exotic content, plus Married with Podcast, Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast, and Laura Bricker's amazing and charming Leave It to Bricker podcast. Our theme song was performed by the New York Ska Jazz Ensemble and used with their permission. Our line editor is the very handsome and bearded Henry Lavoie. Our social media and newsletter maven is soon to be Mommy Meredith Plunkett ×3. This show was recorded in the Yoga Loft above the Bodega in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi studio otherwise known as Studio C, the closet in our basement where we pay Laura and Toby with, quote, being cool. On behalf of all the crime writers, all of us, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you later. Henry edits this podcast. Now he's up to the point, because he's home, where he's doing like, I don't know, I want to say like 80% of the work. Like he's mixing in the clips. He's doing like all of the editorial edits, and I'm just going in and doing the final mix. And Henry has determined the two big X factors of this podcast are Toby and Will.
Oh, I want to learn more. So because Will keeps taking my mic?
Yes, because Will keeps fucking up your audio setup. Yes.
Yeah. Why don't we get you a video setup?
Can I just, in keeping with Henry's thinking I'm a wild card?
Yes.
I missed like the first 8 minutes.
Of recording this?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Wild card.
Partners in Crime Media.
The friendship is sharing deal.
Because I want one of your McNuggets.
And I need some of your Quarter Pounder.
There's a deal for everyone at McDonald's. Get one favorite like 10-piece chicken McNuggets, a Quarter Pounder, or a Big Mac and get another for just $1. Price and participation may vary. Valid for item of equal or lesser value.